Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing another Tinkerer's Cube Draft. Cube drafts, for those who don't know, are drafts that are phantom drafts, so you don't keep anything that you collect within the draft, but because of that, they chock them full of a bunch of powerful rares and mythics to make for a really crazy gameplay experience. So anyways, let's see what we've got in this opening pack, see what we want to roll with. I do think Angel Invention is an incredibly powerful card that fits into a lot of decks, so that might be the best. Just pick one, pack one here, although I did just pick one, pack one it in the last deck that I did, so I might be interested in trying something else. We do have Beanstalk Giant here, great for a ramp deck, great for going multiple colors with the Fertile Footsteps Adventure. This card seems like a pretty good card in general. It keeps you quite flexible as well by being mana fixing of whatever color you want with the footsteps. Might try that out here, seems like the most unique thing I haven't done before. I do think Sithis is really good as well, the green-white enchantments deck, but I do love me some variety, trying out a bunch of different stuff here. I'm going to slam down a Beanstalk Giant this time. So here we see Primal Might, one of the best green removal spells in the cube, and there's not a ton of great removal in the cube, so it's good to pick that kind of stuff up highly. We have a great red aggressive card, Skewer the Critics, and some good 5-drops for the top end of those curves. Sethron being just a lot of power and toughness for the mana cost, and Siege Gang Commander, really good in like a Sacrifice deck or a Goblins deck. So some great red cards in there, some good white life gain cards, Archon of Redemption, and Elenda. But kind of like just rolling with Primal Might here. If we end up in green, this is going to be just great. Just a super solid removal spell for any green deck. Yeah, a bunch of good stuff in there as always, so can't go super wrong with the pick. I'll scoop up a Primal Might. Esika's Chariot. This card destroys me on a regular basis. 4 mana for a 4/4 vehicle that requires 4 power to crew. However, it comes into play with 2 2/2s. So even if you play this and just get 2 2/2s and it immediately dies, it's just a good deal for 4 mana. It's 4 power and toughness for 4 mana split amongst 2 creatures. If you get a single attack off of this, that's where you're getting an excellent deal. Because then you attack with this as a 4/4 and you make another 2/2 at the very least, just another copy of a token you control. And then often it'll even trade off into one of their creatures. This card is usually an incredibly good deal, and Esika's Chariot, just an absolutely brutal card here, and it lends really well to just slamming a bunch of green cards as our first few picks here, leaving our second color super open. Outside of that, I do think Earthshaker Counter is an exceptional aggressive card. Yahenni's Expertise, a great cheap board wipe. Elite Guard Mage, really good in the Flicker deck. Any cards with good enter the battlefield effects are super good in white-blue decks, because there are a lot of ways they've put in this cube to bounce them out of play and put them back into play, getting their enter the battlefield effects again. So lots of great viable options in the pack as always, but we're going to roll with that Esika's Chariot, just a great card all by its lonesome. And here might be the first time we take a non-green card. I could see Star of Extinction here. We could be like a big green-red ramp deck. And this can be like a big card against those more aggressive decks. If you ramp into it, you just ramp into this card, clear the board, destroy one of their lands, and then start casting your big green monsters. So Star of Extinction's interesting to me. Harmonious Archon has just been really good in general for me. It's always great when you have more creatures on board than your opponent, because every creature turns into a 3/3, so it doesn't matter how good the creature's abilities are, it just matters how many creatures you have. So Harmonious Archon really good in like a tokens deck. Concealed Fury, fine aggressive red card, some blue stuff, some black stuff. I think I'm going to roll with Star of Extinction here. I like the idea of like a green-red ramp deck with that as like a big board wipe when we need it. So what do we have out of this pack, though? I think my favorite card out of this pack is Kor Skyfisher, to be honest. There are just a lot of really good enter the battlefield effects in this format in general, and Kor Skyfisher lets you redo those. We only have one right now, the Esika's Chariot, but recasting a Chariot for 2 more 2/2 seems like a pretty great deal. And green-white has been a very powerful color combination quite often, and I honestly don't think any of these red cards are very good. Strike It Rich, Blood Aspirant, and Squee are all relatively mediocre to me, Squee probably being the best of those three, because it can recast itself from a graveyard, so good in like a Sacrifice deck. But yeah, Beetleback Chief being like the best red card there, just a great you know, 4 power toughness for 4 mana split amongst multiple cards. So, not super pumped about any of the other cards outside of Skyfisher in that pack. Here we have Filigree Familiar, not the greatest enter the battlefield effect, but it is one that we can recast with Core Skyfisher. It's a pretty good card to just get out on the board and get chump blocking in the early game if you don't have a lot of cheap cards, so it can be good in a ramp deck. This is just like your one creature you play early game. Just draw a card off of it, gain some life, slow your opponent down a little bit there. Blood Artist is a really good card, might be the best card in the pack, because whenever any creature dies, yours or your opponent's, you're draining your opponent for a life, so that is just a really powerful card in general. And then there's like Targnar, which we do look like we're considering red-green for sure with Star of Extinction in here, but I don't think Targnar's super good. I'm going to take Filigree Familiar. Whatever colors we end up playing, we can slap a Filigree Familiar in the deck and not be too unhappy about it. Like, it'll be fine. We do see a spider spawning here. If we get some green-black self-mill going with a lot of creatures in the deck, this card can be really good. It's also quite fun to draft around. But yeah, just creating a boatload of spider tokens, making it really, really hard for your opponent to attack in well. And then, you know, eventually just getting enough of them to kill your opponent with seems like a pretty good card in general. If we don't take that, we could take Momentary Blink here, maybe go green, white, blue, flicker. Green as the core with some mana ramp cards like Beanstalk Giant to work as mana fixing to grab that blue source. Kind of interested in that. I'm actually going to take Momentary Blink here. Might go for our first 3-color deck, and Evolving Wilds would help with that as well. Help with like a little blue splash for flicker effects. That being said, there's also Illusionist Stratagem, which is great with a lot of good enter the battlefield effects because this flickers 2 of your cards. Yeah, 2 of your creatures get flickered and come back into play, and you draw a card. Yeah, I almost like the Stratagem better. I'm definitely looking to be flicker this time around, I think. We see the cards like that pretty highly. We see Sithis here still. So, I mean, Sithis is such a good card, even if I have drafted it before. If it's going to go this late, I am still going to take it here and consider being a little more Enchantress, but we might be like Bance, Enchantress plus Flicker. This is going to be an interesting deck to build. I'm definitely going to take Glacial Fortress here. I definitely like taking good mana picking, especially when I'm considering going 3 colors. Spectral Seal's fine if you have a lot of auras. So like that could be going with Sithis here, but it doesn't really go with anything else in the deck. Like, it's really bad with flicker effects to put an aura on something. Alright, I'm very happy with where we're at here. We see Elite Guard Mage very late, and this is a great card to flicker because it's enter the battlefield effect. It's just very good. Gain 3 life and draw a card. Definitely Guard Mage here. Yeah, I am definitely looking for maybe the 3-color flicker deck here. Don't really think I'll need Hedron Archive. I think the flicker decks, our curve kind of stops at 4, and then we just start flickering everything, so we don't really need the extra 2 mana there later. Shimmer Dragon could very well get played in here just as a 6 mana 5/6 flyer. We're unlikely to have enough artifacts to do the draw off of it, but can be fine. So let's see. So we're like Bant Flicker is what it's looking like here. Late to Dinner is a fun card, a Reanimator effect, and we get a food token, but we don't have anything that like cycles itself into the grave. Yeah. Bunch of mediocre stuff like Curious Pair and Wolf Rider Saddle, Verdant Embrace. It's like a fine enchantment, not one of the better ones because it costs quite a bit of mana, and you know, a single removal spell is going to kill your creature and the aura. I do really like having Masked Vandal in the deck. It's just a good ability to have access to, especially in this cube. There are just a lot of good artifacts and enchantments, so being able to exile them is pretty sweet. I might just be first picking a Masked Vandal here. I mean, there's no great enter the battlefield effects outside of like Wolf Rider Saddle. We're really looking for great enter the battlefield effects on creatures to work with cards like Illusionist Stratagem and Momentary Blink. And while Wolf Rider Saddle has a fine enter the battlefield effect, it's not a creature. It's just an artifact there, so I'm just going to go with Masked Vandal there, and here I'll definitely go with Archon of Sun's Grace. We have Sithis in the deck, so we're looking to be a little bit enchantments and a little bit enter the battlefield, and Archon of Sun's Grace is just really good. A really good white card in general, but really, really good if you have a lot of enchantments. And even with just a bit of flicker, if we get any enchantment creatures like Sithis is, we could just flicker Sithis to trigger Constellation on Archon of Sun's Grace again. So that seems pretty great to me. Yeah, definitely the best card in this pack for us. Thriving Grove would be pretty excellent as well, because this can be a green-white or green-blue dual land, which is definitely helpful. But I think it's going to be the Archon. I think there's just a more powerful card. Plus, people don't tend to take the dual lands nearly as highly as I do, so I could somewhat expect that dual land to wheel to us here. Well, Squirrel Sanctuary is a great card in the Enchantress decks. 1 mana for a 1/1, and whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you return this to your hand to recast it, get another enchantment cast. So that seems very, very good with Sithis. I really, really like that card, a recastable enchantment. As powerful as On Sarah's Wings is, auras do not work well with Flicker, and the cheap recastable enchantments are just better with Sithis generally, just for the consistent triggers. Really, really good stuff there. Outmuscle's pretty solid removal. But we are going to be like 3 colors here, so we can pick up whatever decent removal we see in any of the 3, hopefully. So we don't have to take the removal as highly as usual. So I'm going to take up that Squirrel Sanctuary here. I think that card just always ends up being quite good. Now, Setessan Champion. Well, again, just another great Enchantress card here. I think we have to slam it down. There are, again, a lot of great options. Really happy with the colors we're in because we're seeing great stuff. And then we see a Breeding Pool for mana fixing, Ovenwald Hydra for a big ramp card. A couple great white-blue cards, Staggering Insight for auras, and Empyrean Eagle for flyers. Trial of Strength is also great for Enchantress because it's a creature that counts as an enchantment. And you could potentially recast it later. Just super, super good stuff we're seeing for our deck. Now we have Sylvan Ranger. I do really like Sylvan Ranger here because it has an enter the battlefield effect to flicker, and it mana fixes us for our 3-color deck. I think that'll be the pick for me. Junkwinder is a really fun, powerful card, but we don't have that many tokens in our deck. Baron is kind of for the flicker deck. Whenever you're flickering your own permanents or bringing them back to your hand, you're drawing cards. So that's cool, but it's also a difficult mana cost. Double blue on a 3-mana card is a bit difficult to hit for a 3-color deck. I'm going to go with the Sylvan Ranger here. Just make sure our mana's all in order. Be happy with that. Thriving Heath or Sentinel's Eyes, both of these are great. Sentinel's Eyes is a recastable aura. As long as we have 2 other cards in our graveyard, we can recast it from our grave to trigger Sithis and Setessan Champion, which is excellent, or we just have Thriving Heath for the great mana fixing. At this point, we're getting just enough great green-white Enchantress stuff that we might be moving into just that, where Sentinel's Eyes would be better. But Thriving Heath is excellent mana fixing, so that's definitely a consideration, but I'm going to scoop up Sentinel's Eyes here. Alright, Bestial Menace doesn't really work with what we're doing. We don't have much of a token theme. It works very poorly with Flicker and doesn't do any enchantment stuff. Kind of like Thraben Inspector here. It's fine with Flicker and just a fine 1-drop in general. And nothing else in here really speaks to me. Path to the World Tree seems pretty great. It's an enchantment that picks up whatever land we need to be green, white, and blue here. However, Minimus Containment is also really good, a removal spell and an enchantment all in one. It does give them a treasure when we do it, but still good to have removal. I'm going to go ahead and take the Minimus Containment here, I think. Just make sure we have some just great on-theme removal. And now I think we are just pushing into exclusively green-white at this point, where we just take a Wolf Rider Saddle or a Curious Pair. Either of these are just fine. Not super exciting. Take the Curious Pair here, get some more early game creatures. And very happy to take a Thriving Grove. That being said, Rescuer Sphinx does make a good amount of sense in the Flicker deck, but I think our deck's just going to be better at this point with how open green-white enchantments is to just move into green-white enchantments again, even though I have done it before. When it's this open, let's just do a good draft here and get a great deck, which I think we will in green-white. Ovenwald Mysteries wouldn't be bad, but I'm going to take another great removal spell in the Out Muscle there. Oh yeah, we're in a super great position to just be green, white, and blue. We could even just splash in a Staggering Insight potentially. Maybe Environmental Sciences is better in case we pick up a Learn card, but we've got a couple lands for splashing here, so we might end up splashing in a little blue. And Thriving Heath wheeled to us last pick. Actually just incredibly good for getting that little blue splash in here if we want it. Wow. Yes, so happy to see Thriving Heath last pick, but that is the kind of thing I was talking about where, like, as highly as I think you generally should take dual lands, especially if you're like 3 colors, you actually don't have to take them as highly as I think you should, just because of the fact that nobody else does. Like, if you can wheel these dual lands last pick in so many drafts like this, I guess I do overdraft them just because I think most other players underdraft them. So what do we want here? I don't like Mending of Dominaria. It's quite a slow enchantment. Cavalier of Dawn's technically like a removal spell on a creature. It's pretty hard to cast. Knight of Autumn just seems like a really good rate for like a 3-mana card here, or you happen on a Glade's good for getting some mana fixing in. Solemn Simulacrum good as well. I'm just going to pick up the Knight of Autumn here. That might be wrong, because since it is a dual-colored card, it's the most likely one to have wheeled, but I still do just really like this card. And I love the flexibility of it, being able to have Artifact and Enchantment Hate in the main deck for playing against other enchantment decks like ours, or just any random good artifacts like Reaper's Talisman. Reaper's Talisman has absolutely slapped every time I've taken it in this cube. It has been very powerful, so having removal for stuff like that is good too. Here I'm just going to take Cartouche of Strength. It's great because it's a removal spell that's also an enchantment. As I've said before, that's always great in these Enchantress decks. Zendikar's Royal's good, but it's pretty slow. So I'm just going to take the Cartouche here. Now, Blessed Spirits, 3 mana for a 2/2 flyer. Whenever we're casting an enchantment, we're putting a +1/+1 counter on it. Seems very good for what we're doing here. And I'm happy to take it. We've got 5 enchantments right now. We do definitely need to take some more, but doing pretty decently. 11 creatures, this will be our 12th. Doing pretty well on creatures. We're doing decently on enchantments, but we definitely want more. So any creatures that are also enchantments are going to be like our best options here. Like Battle for Bredegard, I might take over the Nessian Wanderer. Although I guess Battle for Bredegard is dual colored, so it's more likely to wheel. Because there's less people that are going to be in both green and white than people that are going to be in just green. And both of these cards will be great for us. Nessian Wanderer drawing us lands off the top as we're casting our enchantments. See how our curve looks here. I'm going to take the Battle for Bredegard here, just because it fills both roles. It's a creature and an enchantment here, which seems very, very good. Take Healer's Hawk here, just a random mediocre creature to slap auras onto if we pick up some more auras, or we could take the Bark Channel Pathway, the green-blue dual land for splashing in a bit of blue. We've got some good blue stuff like Staggering Insight, Guard Mage here. So I could definitely see it. Yeah, I'm going to take the green-blue dual land here. We don't have any learn spells. If we did, Mascot Exhibition would be solid. But I'm not going to bank on getting like a last-second learn card. So now we have Ancestral Blade, which is a creature and an equipment. Containment Breach if we get a learn, Scholar of the Lost Trove, or Heliod's Pilgrim. Pretty easy Heliod's Pilgrim here. In our deck, it can pick up a Minimus Containment as a removal spell, or a Cartouche of Strength as a removal spell. And that's already just great. And it also has the flexibility of picking up Sentinel's Eyes when we don't need removal, for just a cheap aura to make something a bit bigger. I don't love Monstrous Onslaught in here, because I think our creatures just aren't that big in general. Yeah, they're pretty like mid-range creatures in this deck. And we've already got a lot of other good removals, like kind of just like a Cursed Idol better, but I don't even like main decking that, so I don't think I'm playing any of these cards. Well, green-white dual land that also scries when we play it seems great, because I'm not a huge fan of running a Shefet Monitor in here. I guess it would be another card to help splash in blue, but we're already so good on blue mana fixing here that we can just toss in, you know, the one blue card I want to play and call it a day. So I don't really think I need the Shefet Monitor for mana fixing. Nor do I need You Happen on a Glade. So we're not taking anything out of this pack, really. But You Happen on a Glade is the only thing remotely castable for us. Alright, now we're just taking stuff that is not getting played. I'm probably not playing Novice Knight, but I guess it blocks well. 1 mana for a 2/3. We are like the one deck... Ooh, we did wheel Nessian Wanderer. Very happy to see that. We're like the one deck that could make use of Novice Knight, because we have some auras we could slap onto it, but we don't have a lot, so... Yeah, just an early game blocker, though, I guess, could be fine. We do need some more creatures in general, so I could see that happening. All right. We get to make some cuts from this deck and just have another sweet green-white Enchantress deck today. Okay. We have 15 creatures, 11 non-creatures, 7 enchantments. I don't want to cut any enchantments out of this deck. Cut 3 cards. Don't love the Cursed Idol, especially because we have other better main deckable artifact and enchantment removal, specifically in the Night of Autumn, because when our opponent has a good artifact or enchantment, we just kill it, and when they don't, we play this as like a 4/3 or gain some life, whatever we need. We also have Masked Vandal in the main deck, another artifact or enchantment removal spell, so we definitely don't need you find a Cursed Idol here to destroy an artifact or enchantment, and if we're just using it to create a treasure and venture into the dungeon, it's pretty weak, so we'll cut that for sure. We have Minimus Containment, Cartouche of Strength, Outmuscle, and Primal Might as removal. So I think we're doing really well on removal. Actually don't really want Momentary Blink here. Like, we have the easy blue splash for if we want to flash this back, but just in green-white, I don't think we have enough like powerful enter the battlefield effects that I actually want this card. Because we could like draw a card with a clue token. I guess we could get rid of another artifact or enchantment with Masked Vandal or Night of Autumn, or we could grab another basic land with Sylvan Ranger. Yeah, we don't have any like really good enter the battlefield effects outside of the enter the battlefield effects on our enchantments. If we had more enchantment creatures in the deck, I think I might keep Momentary Blink, because blinking an enchantment when you have Archon of Sun's Grace out to get another 2/2, or when you have Setessan Champion out to draw another card and get another counter on this, that seems pretty good, but we only have one enchantment creature, so Momentary Blink just isn't flickering our enchantments, it's only flickering creatures. So we'll cut the Momentary Blink here. And I could cut like one removal spell, like an Outmuscle here, but I think I'd rather just cut a mediocre creature like Curious Pair. Like, it's not doing anything for our deck. It's just a 2-mana 1/3 to block things, I guess. Which is quite similar to like 3-Bit Inspector, except 3-Bit Inspector draws a card instead of gains some life, and it's just cheaper. I guess we could cut Novice Knight as well. Like, we do have Sentinel's Eyes, Staggering Insight, and Cartouche of Strength to throw onto it so it can attack, but still, most of the time it's just sitting there blocking, which is not exciting. We definitely have some mediocre creatures to fill out this deck. Even Sylvan Ranger isn't great, but it does get that blue mana, which is nice. Yeah, we have several mediocre creatures to choose from to cut here that I think I'd cut them before Outmuscle, so Curious Pair, Novice Knight, Sylvan Ranger, these seem like the most mediocre, but definitely Curious Pair, Novice Knight seem the absolute worst. I'm going to cut the Curious Pair here, and we will call it a day. Let's get some beautiful basic lands going on here. Let's get my favorite basics. The Hour of Devastation, Bolas lands. My favorite basics on Arena. However, if we ever get a return to Shards of Alara, I am very into the landscapes of Shards of Alara, so if we get some more of those could quickly become my favorite duels on, or basics on Arena. All right, so here we are with the enchantments deck. I do try to, I try to play as many different strategies as I can in each Tinkerer's Cube, but you all saw how open this was. We wield a Sithis, and I think Sithis is an incredibly powerful card in this cube. As open as I like to be to trying out new things and doing new decks, wheeling a Sithis is more than a big enough signal to get me right back onto the same stuff that I played a few drafts ago. All right. Well, this seems very good. We have all three of our colors. We get to slam down a Nessian Wanderer on turn 2, Setessan Champion on turn 3, then throw a Staggering Insight onto something, draw a card off of Champion, draw a card off of hitting somebody. Really good start to this game, depending how things go. Here we even have an Archon of Sun's Grace coming up, which is going to be really good. So we could even just wait on casting Staggering Insight until we have every Constellation trigger we've got on the board, because we have a 2-mana one, a 3-mana one, and a 4-mana one to curve out with well. Seems very good. And then we followed up with Staggering Insight. We could even core Skyfisher to pick up an enchantment and recast it for all the Constellation triggers we can get in this deck. Right, so turn 2 here, definitely the Nessian Wanderer over any of the other 2-drops. Core Skyfisher would make us bounce a land at this point, and Masked Vandal, we would be wasting the opportunity to exile an artifact or enchantment, because they do not have one, and we don't have a creature in grave yet. So we'll save those for later to potentially get better use out of their effects. Core Skyfisher is such a cool card. It's just a really well-designed, fun card. This was in the original Zendikar, and the idea of it in the Zendikar format was landfall was a big thing. So you could be playing an aggressive deck, and you would love having a 2-mana 2/3 flyer in an aggressive deck, and the drawback would actually be a bit of an upside in that deck, because you'd pick up just a land and then replay the land for another landfall trigger. So Core Skyfisher, super sweet design. I do like that card a lot. Alright, so opponent just slammed down a Skyclave Relic turn 3 there, so it just taps for a mana of any color. So they are certainly setting up to ramp into something big here. We'll see what they've got. We're going to curve out all of our Constellation triggers before we cast any enchantments, although there would have been a decent argument for just slamming down Staggering Insight there, because if they blocked, we'd be killing their 1/1, and if they didn't block, then we'd be drawing a card, of course, with Staggering Insight's ability. So now they've played a Golden Guardian. So they need to get a creature on their board that's bigger than the Guardian, but when they do, they can have the Guardian fight it and die, and then it comes back as a land that can keep making 4/4s for them. So we definitely want to be able to exile that with like Masked Vandal before it goes off. That being said, we need a creature to die for that to happen. I think we just keep playing this game out as normal for now and just hope they don't play something big enough to fight the Guardian yet. Just play this Archon of Sun's Grace, get ready to start staggering some insight in here. And, you know, I guess even if they play something big enough to have the Golden Guardian lose a fight to it, we could still try to outrace them with just flyers in the sky if they can't kill our Archon of Sun's Grace. And of course, if they can kill our Archons of Sun's Grace, if they like use a fight spell or a burn spell, then we just get to cast Masked Vandal and exile their Golden Guardian. Because then we will have an Archon in our grave. Let's see what they got here. Out muscle, so they do have the fight spell, so Archon will die, but now Golden Guardian will as well. I guess they didn't pay Adamant, so if they have another mana, but yeah, they don't have enough mana, so definitely just going to kill that Golden Guardian right now. Before that can go off, because that seems real dangerous. But then, I like Staggering Insight here. And I kind of like it better on Nessian Wanderer than on Setessan Champion. I guess the problem is Pelt Collector could become big enough to block Nessian Wanderer well, but it won't be this turn. I like it better on Wanderer than Champion, because I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket on the Setessan Champion here. I don't want to throw Staggering Insight on it and then have them just kill it, because then I'd be very sad. Yeah, I'm going to throw this on Wanderer, because like worst case scenario, if Pelt Collector gets big enough to block our Nessian Wanderer, well, we can cast Core Skyfisher and just pick up Staggering Insight and put it on the champion then. Like, we can move it around later, which is just excellent. So I'm going to send in the attack here. If I draw a card off of Wanderer, if I hit a Plains, I can cast 3-Bit Inspector. I don't, so now I'll just play the Island. But that's why I didn't play the Island pre-combat there. So yeah, I like the line of Staggering Insight on the Wanderer. So it just plays against single target removal better. And then, of course, we have the ability to move the Staggering Insight around with Core Skyfisher if need be. So here's Retriever Phoenix, 4 mana for a 2/2 flyer. When they cast it, they learn. So grab a lesson from their sideboard, toss it into their hand. And the Retriever Phoenix comes back from their grave every time they learn. If they have more learn cards in their deck, which is pretty cool. They've got a lot of those Strixhaven cards drafted. Basic Conjuration. Look at the top 6 cards of their library, reveal a creature, put it into their hand, and gain some life. Decent draw spell there. Alright. Well, if they just attack with Retriever Phoenix, I guess I don't have to kill their Pelt Collector without muscle. I can just attack all here. So I kind of like just doing that. Attack all, then cast like Essex's Chariot. I could cast Outmuscle to kill Pelt Collector to make sure I'm drawing a card off Wanderer, but I'm assuming I'm going to anyway, and I do. And even if I don't draw a card, just killing a Pelt Collector is pretty much just as good of a deal. Alright, so we play a land here. I like the Chariot, and then I have 2 more mana to play around with. Play a Sylvan Ranger here, I guess. Draw a land out of the deck. I don't love casting Core Skyfisher here because we can cast it later to pick up that Staggering Insight and move it around. Although I guess it would be a good blocker for Phoenix, but we're at 24 life and we're gaining more from Wanderer. We're so safe to just take the damage. Let's just get the Sylvan Ranger out here. Basic Conjuration coming on in. We'll see what creature they grab out of the top 6. They do have to reveal it here. Narnum Renegade, a Death Toucher on the ground. Well, probably going to have to outmuscle that just to make sure all our ground creatures can keep playing around as much as they want. Then Environmental Sciences from our opponent. They're going to gain some life, grab a land from the deck. And I guess that's just a main deck Environmental Sciences, which is interesting, because they've only learned once here. Alright. So, clear out the Death Toucher, get ready to send in with a bunch of stuff here. So now they can't double block and kill the Wanderer anymore. They could double block and kill Chariot or double block and kill Setessan Champion. But either of those are pretty fine. Yeah, let's crew here. Like, well, you know, because they can double block and kill Champion, I kind of don't want to send it in, so I can crew these 3. And then attack with all the creatures that I'm okay with however combat goes. If they double block to kill Chariot here, it's still gotten plenty of great value. Because then it's killed 2 of their creatures and created 3 2/2 cats for us. And if any of the 2/2 cats trade, that's obviously great. Just trading a token for a card that's a little better, a flyer or a creature that can get more counters on it. And the Nessian Wanderer's indestructible, so we don't even have to think about that attack. I mean, that's just going in. It's a very, very safe attack. Alright, and they just scoop them up here. They're quite a bit on the back foot this game. And that'll close it out. So 1 win to start it off. 100% win rate thus far. I doubt we'll get another 7-0 here, but I'm going to do my hardest to get a 7-win run at least. I think this deck is pretty good. Could definitely make it there. Alright, no 2-mana cards here, so we can play Novice Knight turn 1, then our tapped land turn 2. Then we have white, green, and blue mana available. Seems as good as any hand. A little slow, but we have Heliod's Pilgrim that can pick up an aura that's a removal spell if we're scared of what our opponent's doing, and if we're not, we can just slam down a familiar for some decent value. And a 2/3 is going to do a mighty fine job blocking their 2/2s. So black and red from our opponent, probably black-red sacrifice, and there you go. They have the persist card, so when this dies it comes back as a 1/1, as well as a card to sacrifice stuff. So black-red sacrifice from our opponent for sure. Let's drop down a Filigree Familiar here. Just set up some great blockers. Glinthorn Buccaneer. When they discard a card, it deals 1 to each opponent. They can discard a card, draw a card as long as it's attacking, so they can use that to fuel more draws. Alright, I can play another green source here, and now I can outmuscle if I want to kill something, but I can't kill the Glinthorn Buccaneer. I could just kill the Slaughter Priest of Mogis. Yeah, I don't really want to do that. Play Scroll Sanctuary and Heliod's Pilgrim here. But I'm not sure what aura I even want right now. Probably just grab a removal spell aura. Sure. Because I don't think I want to outmuscle right now. Probably Minimus Containment. I like grabbing an aura that's a removal spell that doesn't require fighting here. Because they are on like the sacrifice decks, they could have some surprise like burn spells and stuff in red-black that could make a fight really bad for me. Be a lot harder for the Minimus Containment to work poorly for me. Plus, it's just more flexible removal for what they might play in the future, because I'm not particularly scared of what's currently on the board. I'm just scared at what the future might hold. Because, yeah, we have, like, Outmuscle to deal with what's out right now. And I'm probably going to Outmuscle Blood Artist, to be honest, because this card can just drain us for lethal over time. So Outmuscle, hold the 1 mana up for Scroll Sanctuary to bring back to hand if we want to. What do we want to put a counter on, though? Do we want to put a counter on the Novice Knight, so it's a 3/4? Then when we play Staggering Insight on in the future, it's a 4/5? Maybe. I don't think we're really going to get in there with Staggering Insight, because Slaughter Priest, like, it's just going to be a big first striking blocker. If they have 4 mana up, they can just sacrifice Putrid Goblin twice to make this a 6/4 first strike blocker. I don't think we're really getting in ever. So I'm really not sure where this Outmuscle is going to go. I guess I will put it on the Novice Knight anyway. Alright, we still get the +1/+1 counter, I believe, even if they sacrifice here. Yeah, because it's put a +1/+1 counter, then it fights target creature. It's not all in one bag. Alright, pass turn from our opponent. We can contain the Slaughter Priest and then try to start attacking with Novice Knight. They'll have 4 power without it. We'll have 5 toughness. Definitely can go poorly here. But on board, it's fine. Try to get something actually going here instead of just staring each other down. Alright, Blood Curdle. That'd have got us at any point, any any card we try to Staggering Insight. About as fair of a removal spell for them to have there as possible. Well, feed the Swarm to save the Slaughter Priest, alright. They did have the enchantment removal in black, which is always a surprise. Let's just hold up the mana for the Squirrel Sanctuary, so that if we chump block with a Familiar or a Pilgrim or whatever, we're getting another 1/1 Squirrel. We're certainly looking to draw into something here. Masked Vandal to get rid of Timuret Calls the Dead, because we definitely have the Novice Knight in the graveyard to do that. That'll stop them from getting another 2/2 and gaining life scrying. I could hold on to the Vandal for a better card later, but this is like the only guaranteed time they're going to have an artifact or enchantment here. Yeah, I'm going to go for it. I mean, Black-Red does have some decent artifacts that they could have drafted, but there's just no guarantee. Whereas we know we're at least killing a 2/2 by doing this right now. Which is as good a deal as any. I hate my life sometimes. There's the artifact immediately. Yeah, that's probably marginally better than the Timuret Calls the Dead would have been. So we got rid of a 2/2 and stopped them from gaining 2 life and scrying 2 cards, which is a decent deal, but because we have 1/1 tokens with like Squirrel Sanctuary, this Mask of Immolation is a pretty big deal also. Oh, they're just going to go in. They can do 2 damage whenever they want. Yeah, if you want to sack Fireblade Charger to kill my Masked Vandal, I guess that's fine. I definitely want to draw a card here. I want to draw into something. Oh yeah, I guess they only do 2 damage. They don't do 5 damage total, just 4, so there was no way for them to kill that there. Ooh, Knight of Autumn? Well, good deal. Get rid of Mask of Immolation. Knight of Autumn will die, though, so I think I cast Squirrel Sanctuary first, so that way when they Mask of Immolation to kill my Squirrel and my Knight of Autumn, I pick up Squirrel Sanctuary to get another Squirrel. Well, we are certainly blowing up the Mask of Immolation now. That was a great draw here. This is still definitely just a net good deal for us. Beetleback Chief. Gives him a lot of stuff to sacrifice to the Slaughter Priest. Cartouche of Strength. We can kill the Slaughter Priest here and have a 2/4 to block with. Seems pretty dang good on this board. This is the one time Slaughter Priest is tapped out. I mean, this is a time where they're tapped out, and we know we can get rid of Slaughter Priest. So let's do so. Glinthorn Buccaneers coming in? No, it is not. Battle for Bredegard. Get another Squirrel token. Yeah, a ton of tokens here. Not going to be good if they get another card to sacrifice to do 1 damage to all our stuff, but if they don't, it's going to hold the fort down pretty well till we draw into something to try to win here. So Goblin Dark Dwellers, what do they have in grave? Feed the Swarm, kill the Battle for Bredegard? Alright. There goes some 1/1s. There was immediately the answer to kill all the 1/1s we would have got. Sir Conrad. Well, Sir Conrad's a way to close this game out. They have 4 power, so they just kill a Masked Vandal here, or Heliod's Pilgrim in a 1/1. It seems like a very good deal for me. Because I also pick up Squirrel Sanctuary here. Yeah, they can't kill both of my non-token creatures here, so I get the maximum value off of Squirrel Sanctuary. plus kill the Dark Dwellers. I guess with Sir Conrad out, Conrad's doing a ton of work here. Conrad's probably the they're out to victory here. Which really just shreds me no matter what I do. Yep, and like now I can make decent blocks, but with Conrad I just take 1,000,000 damage while I do that. I think Conrad closes this out. Great card from our opponent here. We've just drawn all of our small stuff in the first half of this game. No real way to try to put pressure on them or close things out here, so they've gotten their Bomby card out before we have. And that will definitely get us here. Still got 1, maybe 2 more turns. Ooh, with Warlock class, we've got pretty much 1 more turn. So 1 final draw step here. Basically, if we draw our Archon of Sun's Grace, we might be okay, but otherwise we're dead. Sylvan Ranger, yeah, we're pretty dead. We're at 7 life. Everything we chump block with, we take a damage. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attackers. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 blockers. One of them has Menace. So the most damage we could stop would be to go block, block, double block that. We're losing like 3 creatures there. That's 3 life from Conrad. Glinthorn kills us. They just mill with Conrad again, plus Warlock class hitting us for 1. Pretty much guaranteed to die this turn. This was not a great sequence of draws for us this game. We do have a lot of smaller cards in this deck, but I think we've hit all of our just lowest impact, like 1/1s and stuff. We haven't hit Archon, Eska's Chariot, Beanstalk Giant, Cetessan Champion, Blessed Spirit, Sithis, all that stuff. I think any 1 or 2 of those might be... might have been enough to be at least at parity here. I guess, especially with how many enchantments we played, if we had a Sithis or one of our Constellation cards in the early game, that would have been excellent. But we will just get shredded by the Rakdos deck here. It'll be 1 and 1. We are well over dead here to Sir Conrad's triggers plus Warlock class trigger. And I could have blocked in a different way, but if I did, I would have just been immediately dead to damage on board. Definitely a rough one there. Heading into round 3 now. Alright, well, we have green and white here. We've got Sithis turn 2 with multiple enchantments, Sentinel's Eyes, and Minimus Containment. This is our first game where we'll be playing Sithis, and hopefully she'll survive. If she does, this hand is likely to be excellent, so I'm definitely going to keep it. If she doesn't survive, we're going to have some issues, because we're not going to have any creatures, but we've got some good removal spells to try to keep us alive. Outmuscle is going to require a creature, though. We do have Heliod's Pilgrim now. And Knight of Autumn, so I guess, yeah, there we go. Now we definitely have plans, even if Sithis immediately dies here. We've got some good plays. Their opponents on red, black, and blue, Obsessive Stitcher being the first play from them. That means that Sithis survives at least a turn here. Do we want to throw Sentinel's Eyes on Sithis and start attacking, or Minimus Containment their Stitcher? I definitely want to play an enchantment now, because I want to get value off Sithis while I still can. I don't love doing Minimus Containment, because I think that'll make it more likely they just kill Sithis next turn, because then they'll have a treasure token to spend on it. So I'm just going to Sentinel's Eyes here, see what we draw into. Just a land. And this just gets blocked. All right. Well, thanks to the Vigilance, there's absolutely no cost of making that bluff attack, so if our opponent decides that we might have a pump spell and then they don't block, then we do just get some free damage in there, which we did, which is very nice. Alright, so our opponent's on like 5 color here, green, blue, black, and red, with Gold Vein pick to make treasure tokens. So Minimus Containment giving them a treasure token is actually just like very good for them. So we do have to be a little worried about that. I could blow up their Gold Vein pick with Knight of Autumn here if I want. I don't really want to cast Minimus Containments, although it's the only enchantment to cast if I want to draw a card off Sithis. I think let's attack with Sithis, get that 2 damage in, but I think I'm going to cast Knight of Autumn and blow up the Gold Vein pick. Then I'm going to grab a blue source off of our green-blue duel, because next turn I'm planning on playing Heliod's Pilgrim and slapping a Staggering Insight onto somebody. They have 3 power on the board, so we can make Sithis a 3/4 with a Staggering Insight. There's definitely enough to attack in. They have Obsessive Stitcher's ability at instant speed, so it's not that suspicious that they're thinking between steps here when we're casting stuff. So I am going to just send the attack in here. If we get got, we get got. If we don't, this attack is excellent. Kill one of their creatures or draw a card, and draw a card it shall be. I mean, this is a game where we're against blue, black, and red, and we have still put all our eggs in one basket, but I think that's just the best place for them to be. As soon as they draw 1 removal spell, they're pretty decently out of this, but we do have Sentinel's Eyes coming back from the grave, and they don't have that much on their board, so we're still doing pretty good. They get a bunch of food tokens with the Savvy Hunters. They can sacrifice them to draw cards. We can just kill that with an Out Muscle here, especially after Sentinel's Eyes. Floodhounds, they're just going to sit there getting a bunch of value, drawing cards, discarding cards, getting clue tokens, getting food tokens. Let's do what we can to clear this board, I think. So let's Sentinel's Eyes here. We don't have anything that returns stuff from the grave, so as good as those cards are, we just exile them. And then we go ahead and out-muscle the Savvy Hunter here. I guess we can't give Indestructible, so if we fight, we trade. Yeah, we need another green source for the out-muscle. So I guess we just attack this turn and play some more creatures. Go for the out-muscle next turn. So there's Filigree Familiar and Sylvan Ranger here. Grab another white source, I guess. We already have the 1 blue that we need, and we already used our 1 blue card. But we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 green sources in hand, or on board and in hand, so we'll get the 4th white source. Alright, so opponent is going off with the card draw. I think all in all, that actually would have panned out best if we had just slammed down Minimus Containment turn 3 on the Obsessive Stitcher, because they didn't draw the removal to deal with Sithis for quite a while, so I don't think the treasure token actually would have helped them that much. Whereas the Stitcher has definitely been helping them. So I don't think they have very many creatures in their deck for the spider spawning. Yeah, they have 0 creatures in grave, so I'm not very scared about spider spawning. They can get 0 spiders currently. And after they make some chump blocks, they can get 4 maximum. Battle for Bredagard is the draw. Seems decent. Definitely want to just set up for the out muscle here. Lazav can just become a copy of anything in their grave permanently, which is a very big bummer, because now even if we kill Savvy Hunter, they can just make Lazav Savvy Hunter. So we just kill Lazav then? But then if I attack with Knight of Autumn in the future, Knight of Autumn still just trades 1 for Savvy Hunter. We could Minimus Containment one of them and outmuscle the other. We do have enough mana to do that this turn. Yeah, I mean, they're at 10 life. Let's try to get as aggressive as we can. So we'll kill the Savvy Hunter and kill the Lazav. The Minimus Containment, they can sacrifice the treasure token, so there's no way we can try to, like, strand the Savvy Hunter under Minimus Containment. Because if we go for that, they can just sacrifice the Savvy Hunter to put it in the grave for Lazav to become a copy anyway. Alright, now we get to attack with every non-1/1 creature to get in at least 3 damage here. They're going to investigate. And draw a card. Looks like we are getting in for 6 here. Put them down to 4 life. Thwart the Grave. That is disastrously good. They get a 3/3 and a 1/3 back on the board. They have as many blockers as we have attackers. So now, while they are at 4 life, they've got everything walled up here now. Just go for our Battle for Bredegard, I guess, and we just can't really attack in. Like, I attack in with Knight of Autumn and they just block with Savvy Hunter and trade there, and then they make Lazav a copy of it in the future. And then none of my other creatures are getting in. Mind Rack Harpy. Everybody mills cards every turn. That can help with their spider spawning. And a Warlock class. Ooh, they got rid of my Beanstalk Giant, but at least they got rid of 2 lands alongside it. Squirrel Sanctuary is the draw. Really good with Battle for Bredegard on the board. That'll get us more creatures. If we get to a point where we have 4 more creatures than they do, we can get there. I guess we need 7 more creatures than they do, because they can just block with Savvy Hunter and just get a food token when they declare the block and then gain 3 life. That's pretty insane here. We need 7 more creatures than them to win this game. The deck of many things. All right, another great value engine. They get to roll a d20 every turn and do a random effect, grabbing a card from their graveyard or drawing 2 cards, or returning one of our cards from grave to their field. They've milled 3 non-land cards for us here, unfortunately. Some good mills for our opponent. And they're drawing 2 off the deck. I guess they're down to 9 cards in their library. They might mill themselves with Mind Rack Harpy if we have good enough blocks. We did draw another creature, Nessian Wanderer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 to their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 more creatures than they do. On attacks, they don't have the mana to use the food. So right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on attacks against their 5 on blocks. We can put them to 1 life, but they're going to get a food token to sacrifice next turn, and we're going to lose a lot of our creatures. So putting them to 1 is actually just a net loss here, because we put them to 1 and then they just gain 3 life and go back to 4. So we're just losing a few creatures for pretty much nothing. So we don't attack this turn. I guess we could hope that they get too like draw happy and spend all of their mana on other stuff. But I mean, they're probably going to spider spawning and get a million blockers. But if they completely tap out and we have 3 more creatures in them, then we can get there. Well, Azoni gives them a bunch of blockers as well. We're at 24 life though. We're at 24 life though against their 5 cards in library. With Mindrack Harpy, they're 2 turns away from milling out. Archon of Sun's Grace is a great draw here. Cast the Archon of Sun's Grace. I don't want to kill their Mindrack Harpy because I want their Mindrack Harpy to mill them out. So I don't want to attack with anything with at least 2 power, but I kind of still want to attack with something and see if I can't get my creature to die here. I might attack with just a 1/1 here, because if I get something to die for Squirrel Sanctuary, recasting Squirrel Sanctuary would be great. So I'll just attack with like Sylvan Ranger here. They probably just block with their 0/3, but okay, I was gonna say yeah, I'll take the block with the 3/3 because I'm at the point where they have so many creatures out. I'm pretty certain I'm not gonna kill them by life total, so I can give them more life to gain as long as I can just get more value off our Archon here. Just make sure that we're super safe. And I'm not going to draw any extra cards because if I do, then I might mill out before them. Bloodfast, they can spend life to draw cards, so they can mill themselves faster if they want. They're down to 4 cards in library. So how does this work, right? Beginning of combat on your turn. So mill 3, they have 1 card, I have 5. We go to their next turn, they have 0 cards, I have 2, and then they just mill out. Yeah, they're gone in 2 turns. To Mindrack Harpy milling too much. They have to Doombleed their own Mindrack Harpy, I guess. And then find a way to get lethal here, which hopefully by getting a few lifelinkers we've helped mitigate a bit. Okay, so Stitcher bring back their best creature, Mayhem Devil, so when they sacrifice cards they can do a damage wherever they want. They can sacrifice Mindrack Harpy before combat now, right? Because this sacrifices anything. Oh, they scoop them up. Interesting, okay. Alright, I thought we were actually screwed there now that they brought Mayhem Devil up there. Because they have what? They have the... Oh no, they don't have the mana to sack immediately? So I guess we had to kill them this turn. But if we didn't kill them right now, then when it goes back to their turn, they can spend a green-black, sacrifice Mindrack Harpy to Azoni before its ability goes up. Oh wait, no, they have 1 card in library. Never mind. Never mind, their only way to sacrifice creatures actually draws them a card every time they do it, so Mayhem Devil's nowhere near as bad as I thought it was. Yeah, they couldn't find a way there, because they could sacrifice Mindrack Harpy before it makes them mill, but if they did that, they just die, because they're drawing their last card in library anyway. Right there. So yeah, they just need to find a way to do 23 there, and with my board as wide as it is, even if they can sacrifice stuff, they can't sacrifice any creatures or they die by drawing a card. They can only sacrifice like a food token there. Alright, that was a crazy game. That was a crazy game all around. That one was super weird, super funky fresh. 2 wins, 1 loss. We'll take it. We take those, I guess, heading into round 4 now. All right. We are on the play. Turn 1 Inspector, turn 2 Wanderer. Some good cheap cards to get those value plays going off. Our deck does have quite a few cheap cards, like cheap low-impact creatures, which is not great. That is definitely how we lost our 1 loss. We certainly have to get one of our banger cards or our deck doesn't do too much. But all of our like cheap low-value cards are decent cards at keeping the deck consistent and kind of helping dig for our better plays. Because like 3-bit Inspector's drawing cards, Wanderer's pulling out a bunch of lands. So yeah, there's like all that. I probably should have just played the Grove turn 1. I guess by playing Inspector turn 1, if I had top decked a Forest here, then I could have played Wanderer turn 2 after Inspector turn 1. I definitely like Inspector a little better than Wanderer right now, because I'd rather draw blindly than draw land, because I don't need land right now. Alright, Scrap Heap Scrounger, it can't block, so we'll just get in there with our team. Let's actually just Wanderer and slap a Sentinel's Eyes on the Wanderer. Because it'll turn into a 2/4 to block the Scrounger. So the Scrounger just does basically nothing here. Grab the Heath since it's another green source. And we definitely want another green source. Outmuscle wants us to hit triple green to be really good. Ooh, Staggering Insight. Staggering Insight seems awesome. And we have an Outmuscle to back it up. I think we could just throw Staggering Insight onto one of our creatures and attack in, and they'll just take it this turn, so we at least draw 1 card off of it, plus the card we get off of Wanderer. This is a little weird, but I think this is, again, a game where I want to put Insight on my weaker creature, because I just don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. They're blue-black here. So the odds of them having something to get rid of auras is really high, because they could have... Oh, Setessan Champion was in the top 3 there. They could have like a Doomblade style removal spell, or they could also just have a blue card that turns one of my creatures back to my hand. If they return one of my creatures back to the hand, they just kill the Insight permanently. So now if they have like an unsummon effect here, they have to use it on Inspector, which means I get to draw another card off of the Clue token because I get the Enter the Battlefield effect again. And if they just have targeted removal, then at least they're not killing all of my eggs in one basket. They're not killing Wanderer plus Sentinel's Eyes plus Staggering Insight. And just killing by far the best creature. Salundi Vision. Look at the top 6. Grab an instant or sorcery, put it into their hand. Think twice is the choice. Alright, let's... Does this copy non-token creatures? Artifact tokens and or creature tokens. So it would copy the Clue if it's still around, but I think it's better to just draw the card immediately while I've got the 2 mana up. But now I know for the future this would copy Clue tokens, which is cool. Esika's Chariot. Pretty bonkers card all around. They have no cards that can block here, so we just attack all, then cast Esika's Chariot. Seems super decent to me. We draw another card here. It's Sithis. Good lord. Yeah, this game's really going off. So let's drop Chariot, play our tapped land on green. And we've just got super crazy attacks next turn. The Haunt of Hightower. 3/3 flying lifelink. Whenever it attacks, we discard a card, and whenever one of our cards is put into our graveyard, it gets a +1/+1 counter. So, Primal Might's pretty absurd here. We probably have lethal here, right? Because we have Outmuscle and Primal Might if I don't spend triple green on Outmuscle. So, as soon as I cast an instant or sorcery, Haunt of Hightower is going to turn into a 4/4, so I need to be able to beat a 4/4, which means green and 2. I guess I don't have the mana. Or I could crew Esika's Chariot and then a green and 1 will do it. Yeah, so we go crew Chariot. In order to beat a 4/4, we need to make Primal Might give +1/+1. I guess Outmuscle gives +1/+1 as well, so either way works. But Primal Might for +1/+1 to beat the Haunt. Oh, I guess it gets the counter after the fight's already resolved, so either way it would have worked. Alright, well, we played it safe there, but now we just fight here, and then that's exactly 10. But they gain life because it has lifelink. Alright, well, I wasn't accounting for lifelink, but That was still all around an excellent turn, so we're fine. That would have been exactly lethal if they did not gain 3 life from lifelink. But I am bad at math and magic. Either way, they just have a 6-drop next turn. It's not going to be enough blockers to make it out of that one. So 3-1 for the Enchantress deck as we head into round 5. Alright, Sythis turn 2, always an excellent time. Here we have a Cartouche of Strength to play as soon as they play a creature. Otherwise we have Heliod's Pilgrim to pick up our Sentinel's Eyes to cast. Yeah, this hand can absolutely get some, because we got Setessan Champion turn 3, and then we'll have Heliod's Pilgrim turn 4, so we play Pilgrim and the Sentinel's Eyes in the same turn and draw 2 cards from the two draw effects. Archon of Sun's Grace too? Well, we do really need to hit a land here, but other than that, this hand is bonkers stuff. Unless our opponent has a board wipe like Henny's Expertise would be bad for us. Come on, basic land. Basic land would be absolutely absurd here. Doomed Necromancer from our opponent. No basic land. So here I think... I actually want a Cartouche of Strength here because it makes it more likely we can draw into a land. Sure, we're playing an enchantment before we have Archon out, so we're getting a little less value. But I'm going to go ahead and fight here. I'm going to throw it on Sythis again, not putting all our eggs in one basket, spreading them around. They're just going to scoop them up immediately. The draw 2 plus kill one of your cards plus both my creatures are now a 2-3 and a 2-4. They're just immediately over it. They've probably played against a lot of Enchantress today. And they just don't want to deal with it anymore. So 4-1. Only one more win away from breaking even in terms of gold required to play these events. It's 4,000 gold to play, and I think at 5 wins you get 4,000 gold back. So I always am happy to go 5 wins at least. That is my general goal just in life when drafting, is to try to go infinite as best as I can. Just keep drafting as much as possible for as cheap as possible, because I just love playing the game. So Thraben Inspector turn 1 here. Ornithopter of Paradise turn 2 from our black and blue opponent. We don't have a turn 2 play, so we can just draw a card here, but turn 3 we will have Setessan Champion, followed by turn 4 Archon of Sun's Grace. So no blocks here is a free damage for us. Happy to see that. And a turn 3 Davriel, so they can make it so we have to discard cards or sack creatures when we attack them, or they can do some random stuff on the -2, or they can perpetually kill something with the -3. Davriel is very, very bad for us. Just a pretty bonkers planeswalker all around. Primal Might is a pretty great draw, because we could try to Primal Might to kill Davriel. They can -3 Davriel to have something get -3/-3. So I definitely want to chip at Davriel here. It's worth discarding the Thriving Grove because I'm not going to want the tap land for forever anyway. I think I play Knight of Autumn, and I think I play it as a 4-power creature, so it's big enough to kill Davriel without a pump. I don't think I play Setessan Champion, because I think if I cast Setessan Champion and it just dies to Davriel, that's going to be super bad for me, because I definitely need cards like that to keep drawing cards throughout the game. Whereas like Knight of Autumn, if it dies, it dies. I guess because I have Primal Might in hand to get enough power to kill Davriel, it might be better to cast Knight of Autumn and just blow up the Ornithopter here. But it's definitely Knight of Autumn is the play per the turn. I guess we blow up Ornithopter of Paradise. Primal Might's going to give +X/+X, which is going to be enough power for either one of these creatures to finish off Davriel, whatever ability they use, if they only play like one blocker here. Alright, perfect. Perfect. Because we really need to kill Davriel here, so now we're just going to use Primal Might to do that. We have 4 total power if I Primal Might for +2 here. Or we have 5 total power because that's 4 plus 1. So we do that and play our tapped land this turn. Make the most of our lands here by getting that nice scry ability down, and then we just discard a basic on the attack. So we don't have to deal with that nonsense anymore. Alright, and now we just need to draw like an enchantment and we're all set for the future. And there it is. Alright. Huh. Do I cast Archon of Sun's Grace first, even though I can't cast Staggering Insight this turn? Or do I just play Champion Insight and immediately draw a card and potentially draw another with Inspector? It's so good to get those Pegasi tokens, but really like curving out for just the immediate card draw. That might be more greedy than I need to be here, but I'm going for it. And attacking here, I was going to say, yeah, attacking here, we might be able to get the card draw off of Thraben Inspector because they'll just trade for the 2-1. So, super nice. We draw into Sithis. Good lord. The draws are excellent this game. The draws are absolutely bonkers this game. Yet again, we're running really hot these last few games. Like, we've seen what happens when the deck doesn't run hot. Oh my god, and we draw Cartouche of Strength too. Yeah, we easily win the fight with the Setessan champion, so we just cast Sithis first to get max value. Fight there just in case I somehow did the math wrong and Inspector wouldn't win the fight. Yeah, because I'm like, either way, we're drawing a million cards and we've got a ridiculous board. So yeah, they scoop them up there because we're just going to clear out the Haunt of Hightower with our removal. Well, 5 wins we have made it to. That's 4,000 gold and 3 cards. Getting great rewards from this draft regardless of what happens from here on out. Okay, opponents on the play. We have 3 lands in hand here, plus Sylvan Ranger, so we definitely have 4 mana to get to Esika's Chariot, which is very good. We even have more mana with Fertile Footsteps. Hand looks pretty solid to me. It's got some big late-game cards, Chariot and Beanstalk Giant. And that was one of our biggest issues in earlier matches. Just the lack of late-game punch. Plus, we've still got that early-game interaction we've got a lot of. So, pretty solid hand all around here. Turn 1 Pelt Collector from our opponent, getting in aggressively here. Green-black from our opponent, we get slapped for 1 by that Pelt Collector. Go ahead and drop down our Sylvan Ranger, grab a blue source. So we've got double green already, and we've got our 1 white mana we need. So we'll just get all ready to cast a Staggering Insight if we draw into it. And Foreboding Fruit, opponent is going to draw a couple cards and get a food token. Luckily for us, our 1-1 is big enough to trade with their 1-1, so we stop that damage that turn. I could grab a land with Fertile Footsteps on Beanstalk Giant here, or I could cast Blessed Spirits. I kind of like getting a land here because that would open me up to having 5 mana next turn, which is enough to both cast Sithis and Minimus Containment. Which is pretty good, but I could also just cast Blessed Spirits and just cast Esika's Chariot next turn. So I think I'm going to go with that because I'm not going to want to cast Minimus Containment on Pelt Collector, so the only reason I would want to cast Minimus Containment is if they play a really good card this turn, which is possible, but it's not a guarantee, so I'll go for the better guaranteed play. So they did play a card that I would say is good enough that I'd want to Minimus Containment it here, so the grab a land to go for the Sithis Containment play there would have been solid because we would totally just kill the Falconwrath Noble, but we did draw an Out Muscle, so we could just kill it with that instead. Grim Bounty to blow up our Blessed Spirits. They have a treasure token and a food token. Now they've got a Gutter Bones out as well. Well, we could play Masked Vandal to exile one of their tokens, but I don't want to do that. I also no longer have something that I want to get rid of with Minimus Containment. They have a 2-2 and a 2-1 here. So I think I'm just playing like Esika's Chariot to get a couple 2-2s out here because they'll block really well. So we just play Esika's Chariot and we play Bark Channel Pathway on green. I think that is how we're rolling here. I'm going to hold back the 1-1 here so I can block Gutter Bones with a 1-1 instead of a 2-2. And then I can block Pelt Collector with our 4-4 Esika's Chariot. If they slap a Reaper's Talisman onto something, I'm not going to block with our 4-4 Esika's Chariot. We're just going to block with one of our small creatures. Because Reaper's Talisman is going to give the Death Touch here. It's going to get some Life Drain out. Life Drain means they get to bring back the Gutter Bones to their hand from the grave. So we might be in a world where we're going to Minimus Containment their Reaper's Talisman, because that effect is pretty bad for us here, with how well it synergizes with Gutter Bones. And if we Minimus Containment Gutter Bones, they can just sacrifice the treasure to throw Gutter Bones in their grave anyway. So I think we are going to... Well, actually, no, I have Masked Vandal. What am I on about? We have a Masked Vandal to get rid of Reaper's Talisman. So we will definitely do that. Definitely the smarter play. And then Esika's Chariot probably just takes over this game, getting another cat every turn, if they don't have removal in hand. Because it attacks in pretty freely. Ooh, not if they Bone Splitter. Although they are tapped out, so they can't equip the Bone Splitter immediately. Oh, they have a treasure token, so they can. Alright, nice. So I guess I could Minimus Containment the Bone Splitter. Like, I'm definitely going to Masked Vandal the Talisman here, I think, right? I guess they're at 15. It's possible I Masked Vandal Bone Splitter just to get a full-on attack in this turn. Six mana here. I don't have enough mana to do Masked Vandal, Sithis, and Minimus Containment this turn, so I think I'm getting rid of just one of the equipment this turn. So I think I get rid of Bone Splitter this turn, I get rid of Reaper's Talisman next turn. Because if I get rid of Bone Splitter this turn, I attack in, well, I create a 2-2, and then my 2-2 can block Pelt Collector even if they throw Reaper's Talisman onto it. Because Reaper's Talisman's only really important with Gutter Bones out, and they don't have Gutter Bones out right now. So I think I get rid of Bone Splitter this turn. And I'll get rid of Reaper's Talisman next turn. I could play Sithis here, but I like keeping her all safe in my hand. So I'm just going to play Beanstalk Giant's Fertile Footsteps so that we have 7 mana if we want to cast Beanstalk Giant in the future. Alright, so we hit for 4 there, they're down to 11. Let's grab a land off the Fertile Footsteps. I should have just grabbed a white source there, I got plenty of green. I guess I could cast Sithis as well. The fact that I can do both, I'm going to go ahead and do both. I don't think they have targeted removal here, at least not instant speed, because I think if they did, they would have blown up Chariot. Alright, and they just scoop them up now. Because I guess even if I couldn't containment the Reaper's Talisman now, as good as their combo is, it's too slow to fight against all this stuff. When Chariot's just going to keep going off on the attacks, the Talisman doesn't give Death Touch on blocks. It's kind of another one of these drafts where we've sort of become the villain, because Esika's Chariot's one of those cards that I've gotten absolutely destroyed by many times in my life. Probably one of my least favorite cards to play against because of that. But yeah, here we are just going off with Esika's Chariot in a few of these games for sure. So we are 6-1 now, meaning that this round 8 here could be the final round if we win, and it's got another absolute just fire hand here to start it off. We have Sithis in hand, we have Esika's Chariot in hand, we even have a Sylvan Ranger to make sure we have at least 4 mana, including 1 blue source if we do draw into Staggering Insight. The mana base in this deck is just absolutely excellent, I gotta say, which I am loving. We've got the Sentinel's Eyes for an early enchantment to cast with Sithis on the board. We have Minimus Containment as well now for a removal spell to cast with Sithis on board. However, our opponent's playing red cycle a Go for Blood as their first play. So because they're playing red, they're one of the most likely decks to have just 1 red instant deal 2 to something to get rid of Sithis. So I honestly think with our hand, we can very much afford to play around early game removal because we're going to have really viable plays every turn, even if we just hold on to Sithis until very late in the game. So I'm just going to not cast Sithis until they're like tapped out. Because we can just play Ranger turn 2, Blessed Spirits turn 3, and then Esika's Chariot turn 4. Sithis have 2 toughness? Heck yeah, Sithis has 2 toughness. Alright, so Sithis can survive a Mask of Immolation. Ooh. Well, should have grabbed a Plains there. I forgot we do have a double white card in the deck. It is Archon of Sun's Grace. Probably the strongest white card in the whole deck, so not being able to cast that turn 4 is going to be a bit of a bummer, but we can still cast Esika's Chariot turn 4 here. That's probably the line we're going with. We'll play our Spirits here. Hold back our Ranger on blocks, and then cast an Esika's Chariot next turn. Hopefully that'll be pretty sweet. So it looks like we are against a red and white. And an Igneous Inspiration. There's a cheap removal spell pulled out of their deck, so that is 1 down. Sithis is a little more likely to stay on the board for a bit. And they've grabbed an Illuminate History off of the Learn. Discard any number of cards, then draw them any cards. If there's 7 or more cards engraved, they get a 3/2. So a little mediocre draw spell there. Luckily, we did hit the Plains for Archon of Sun's Grace here, which could be super, super good. Would I rather play Chariot first, though? Which am I happier to see go? I think I'm more okay with them killing Chariot than them killing Archon, so I'm just going to play Chariot first. And Chariot, I think, is also probably a little harder for them to kill, so we also just like curve out and get aggressive with it a little better. I think over the course of a long game, Archon's going to be the stronger card because we have 2 enchantments already, so it's going to spit out multiple Flying Pegasi. But in the immediate game, Chariot's going to have a higher immediate impact, plus we're less concerned about it surviving for a long time. Even if it just comes out and gets those cats, it's done a good job. Whereas if Archon comes out and immediately dies to removal spell, it has done a poor job. Then we're sad. But, you know, if we play Chariot and then they, like, destroy an artifact, that's a good deal. We spent 4 mana to get 2 2/2s and remove 1 of their cards from their hand. So, Chariot definitely a better immediate play here. Alright, now they have a ton of stuff for the Mask of Immolation to go off with. Could Minimus Containment their Mask of Immolation, because now they have a ton of cards to start trying to slap that all onto. So I could cast Sithis first so that I draw a card when I do that. This seems pretty decent to me. So they sack in response to kill our Sylvan Ranger here. But we still draw the card, and now we're setting up for a really good turn next turn when we cast Archon and Sentinel's Eyes, because then we're drawing a card and we're getting a Pegasus in the sky, and if we attack with Chariot again, then we get another Pegasus. I guess they could triple block here to clear out Esika's Chariot. Are we fine with that? I think we are, because, like, we trade all that stuff, but we've still gotten 3 cats out of the Chariot. We've gotten good value off of it. As cool as it would be to get more Pegasuses, I think this is still quite a solid line here. And if they don't block, we're incredibly fine with it. The world in which they don't block is a world I'm very happy with until they play like a massive removal spell or something here. Alright, well that explains the no block. They have Restoration Angel to flicker the Beetleback Chief to get more goblins, so now they can just block it here with a bunch of goblin tokens and have a great time. Setessan Champion's a sweet draw to draw even more cards when we're going off with Sentinel's Eyes and all that. But I like playing the Archon first, and I'm probably still just playing Sentinel's Eyes here. They have a 3/4 blocker now. That's a bit of an issue. How many cards do we have in grave? We have 2 cards in grave, so we can recast Sentinel's Eyes if it dies here. So I'm pretty fine to put it on Chariot. Let the Chariot die here, but this way we get another Pegasus in the sky. We let any 2/2s die as well. We get a real aggressive attack in here. And they can make a big block on Chariot to kill it, but then the other stuff's getting in for damage, and we're whittling down the number of blockers they have to lower their chumpers here. Yeah, kill a 2/2 and a bunch of 1/1s. They go down to 10. Their board's quite small. We can recast Sentinel's Eyes next turn. After casting a Setessan Champion, Goblin Dark Dwellers, they can recast a 3 damage removal spell, or actually go for blood for a 4 damage removal spell to get rid of Archon. Seems very good. Yeah, solid play from the Goblin Dark Dwellers there. So no more Pegasuses for us, or no more Pegasi. But now we Setessan Champion, so we're drawing 2 cards every time we recast Sentinel's Eyes. I could also just slam down a Beanstalk Giant, but I am a big fan of drawing cards, so I'm just going to do more of that here. They have 3 blockers for all these attackers, so they go block, 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 take 6. They're going to take 6 damage here, so I'm kind of okay with sacrificing some stuff. I guess if I don't attack with Sithis, they go block, 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 take 4. They take 4 and I lose 2 creatures. They go to 6 life. I mean, if I'm drawing 2 more cards here, like, I'm just so fueled to keep casting things that it's probably worth losing multiple creatures just to chip in some damage. No, I mean, sacrificing 3 2/2s to hit them... No, sacrificing 2 2/2s to hit them for 4 life. Every 2/2 we sacrifice deals 2 damage to them, basically, if we attack 5 creatures here. I'm gonna do it. Maybe it's wrong, but feels right to me. Just keeping that pressure on. We maybe even do 6 if they want to keep the goblin. They do want to keep the goblin, so we put them down to 4 life there. So they have Pia-Nalaar here. That's 2 more blockers. 2/2 on the ground and a 1/1 in the sky. We're definitely casting Battle for Bredegard here. Certainly going to find a way to close things out in the long game. Which, now we're going to need to, because they've got more than enough blockers for everything. So Battle for Bredegard, we draw 2 cards, makes Setessan Champion bigger. Now, when the battle fully goes off, we're going to have even 3 more cards on the board. Primal Might is a huge draw here. It's not quite lethal, because we can Primal Might and kill Restoration Angel to attack in, but then they still have a flying blocker. I think it's still worth it as the play here, but it's not lethal. Now they just have to chump block with their 1 flyer, and then our flyer is going to be getting in the future. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They go block there, and they have 5. 1, 2, 3. They can block everything, so yeah, let's just send that in. Just clear the skies here. But yeah, Primal Might was an excellent draw there. Definitely happy to have Primal Might in this deck. Even if we're an Enchantress deck, Primal Might's just a sweet removal spell. It's had a pretty high impact in a couple of the games where we've cast it. They have 7 cards in grave yet? No, they have 5. So Illuminate History, still not going to make a 3-2 blocker here. Probably just looking at all their options here, seeing if they're finding any way to get out of this one. They have 5 blockers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attackers on the ground, so we can hit them for 2 guaranteed in the sky, and 1 of our ground creatures gets in, which means we're hitting for 3 total damage if we attack all. I'm probably just attacking in the sky again. Oh, Reconstruct History is a pretty big play here. Pick up Igneous Inspiration, Goblin Wizardry, and Mask of Immolation. They can use Igneous Inspiration to get rid of our flyer. And they still got to deal with all the stuff on the ground. But yeah, pretty solid stuff. They're definitely going to survive a little while longer. But once our Battle for Redegard goes off, when it hits the 3rd part, we get multiple more tokens here. Our board should be more than wide enough to finish the game. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. At 9 mana, we can cast Wanderer and Giant, so let's go ahead and do that. Just make the board wide for a lethal attack in the future. I mean, they do have another Goblin Wizardry, which is a bit of a problem, but we can definitely just start attacking with the Beanstalk Giant as like an edict, making them sacrifice 1 creature every turn. Just attack with it as like an Abyss effect. Slowly absorbing all of their chump blockers away to clear the path for everything else. So we have 9 attackers. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blockers, so we're only doing 2 damage if we attack with everybody, but we are clearing out a few of their creatures, but they're clearing out a few of ours. Like, they kill our Novice Knight. We kill a 1/1. We kill a bunch of 1/1s. I think I'm just attacking with Beanstalk Giant here. Actually, no. Attacking with Novice Knight is just good. Because if Novice Knight dies, I think we probably should have been attacking with Novice Knight this whole time. Because if Novice Knight dies, we can just recast Sentinel's Eyes, and we've got more than enough cards in grave to just do that over and over and over again, and every time we cast it, it's a net gain. We're drawing 2 cards. Yeah, I should have been attacking with the Novice Knight forever ago. Because of our just powerful Constellation triggers on the board. And then we can just keep moving the Sentinel's Eyes over to another weak creature, like a 1/1. Some sacrificial fodder to get the Sentinel's Eyes recast for Constellation triggers. Just gotta not mill myself, but I think I have enough creatures to just get lethal next turn, so it's all good, especially if we draw a non-land here. Ooh, Staggering Insight. Draw some more cards, make something else bigger. Get lifelink on our gigantic thing, I guess. Like, it's never gonna hit them, but now we just gain 1,000,000 life too. So the only thing we have to worry about is when we mill out. And Filigree Familiar for another attacker. Citizen Champion's more than large enough to start attacking it as well. We're definitely just slamming the all-attack button next turn. We have absolutely zero cares about retaliation with an 11/11 lifelinker. Brunor Battlehammer, pretty big. A 5/3 here. 5, 6, 7 blockers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 attackers. We've got 5 more attackers than they have blockers here. So that is, I mean, put them to -1 because they cannot block every creature we have, and all of our creatures have at least 1 power. So these 5 get through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Illuminate History gives them 1 more blocker so that they survive with like 1 life, but still be at 1 life. They don't cast it here, so they must have some weird instant. Either way, we're just attacking all. There's no way they find lethal on the crackback. Ten, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. They have 15 power on the board. Yeah, even if they somehow get rid of Beanstalk Giant so we can't get any life here, there's no way that they have lethal on the crackback. And there's no Settle the Wreckage in this cube. There is like a 9, not 9, but like 7 or 8 mana Angel that comes into play and exiles every attacking creature. So there's sort of a Settle the Wreckage, but it costs a lot more, so they don't have enough mana to cast that if they have it in their deck. I think that card is very good with the flicker effects in the cube as well. Because like the first time you do it, like your opponent's like, oh no, like they really got me. And then it's just sitting there on the board hitting them, and it's easy to forget about that. And then like you just flicker it again when they try to get a big attack in again. It's always brutal when you can get that ability multiple times. So if they do have like Swords to Plowshares or something to kill Beanstalk Giant, then they wouldn't have blocked like this. So I think we just have it. Because they like blocked our biggest creature here, so they don't have instant speed removal, I'm guessing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage they're taking here. Pair of Goblins give everything they have +2/+0, so they win some fights, but they don't have any lifelink, so dead on board it is. They could have survived 1 more turn if they just played those as trump blockers, but that wouldn't have been enough to get out of it, so I respect the choice to send a message and defeat a bunch of my creatures in combat there. But there we go, we did it again. Oops, I did it again, referring not only to drafting Enchantress again, but getting another sweet 7-win run out of these Tinkerer's Cube drafts. So here's one last look at the deck. Definitely do love that Primal Might whenever we draw it, it was sweet. But of course, the big game-ending, super impactful cards being Esika's Chariot, Archon of Sun's Grace, and then the 1-2 punch of the card draw engines that are Citizen Champion and Sithis Harvest's Hand. Super sweet deck. We also were considering going Bant most of the time during the draft, so we ended up with sweet enough mana fixing with Glacial Fortress, 2 of the Thriving Lands, the Thriving Heath and the Thriving Grove, plus Bark Channel Pathway and an island with Sylvan Ranger and Beanstalk Giant. Just a bunch of good mana fixing to make it incredibly easy to splash in that Staggering Insight, and that Staggering Insight did put in a ton of work in a few of those games because we do have a lot of 1-2 mana creatures. We've thrown this Staggering Insight onto Thraben Inspector, we've thrown it onto Sithis, and we've gotten some good card draw off of it in multiple of those games. So Staggering Insight, another card, that was a really nice splash to be able to do there. So super sweet draft this time, really nice deck all around, and yeah, super fun time. So let's see what our random rare rewards are here. Honestly, the random rare rewards, I'm hoping for cards that I have 0 in my collection of, or just gems. So the fact that none of these say new, bit of a bummer on the rewards this time, but still cool to get more cards for the collection there alongside just raking in some more gold to play more drafts. So that is going to end the video. As always, if you enjoyed the video, thank you very much for watching, and stick around on the channel for more Magic Arena content. I've got tons coming with Innistrad Midnight Hunt's release. I have taken some time off work, so we'll be doing a draft. We'll be doing a draft a day for at least a week for that set, and really dipping our toes in it. Of course, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link below as well. I will be streaming Innistrad Midnight Hunt for the first 3 days of release. I'll be streaming a boatload of it, trying to really get a firm grasp on the set. But other than that, just thanks for watching. Stick around. There will be more Magic Arena content very soon.